was one of those muggy July nights when the air feels heavy and the crickets are so loud they drown out your own thoughts. I had stayed late at a friend's house in a little rural town outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and by the time I left, it was well past midnight. My drive home was about an hour and a half, most of it weaving through back roads I only half remembered. The first 30 minutes were quiet. No cars, no houses, not even a gas station. Just me, the winding road, and the occasional deer darting into the woods. Then, in my rearview mirror, I caught sight of a pair of headlights. At first, I didn't think much of it. People drive late, right? But after a while, something felt off. The car didn't pass me, didn't fall back, no matter how much I adjusted my speed, slowing down to under the limit, then speeding up to 15 over. The headlights behind me stayed locked exactly 2 car lengths back. My stomach tightened. I switched lanes. The car did too. I slowed to almost a crawl. They slowed. When I sped up, so did they. It wasn't subtle anymore. Whoever they were, they wanted me to know I was being followed. My mind raced with possibilities. A drunk driver, someone messing around, or something worse. The road eventually curved toward a 24-hour gas station, one of the only ones in the area. I pulled in, figuring if this person was just being weird, they'd keep going. They didn't. The car pulled in right after me, and instead of stopping at a pump, they circled the lot with me. Whenever I turned, they turned. Whenever I slowed, they slowed. I could see them now, a dark SUV, tinted windows, no plates on the front. The headlights were so bright I couldn't make out the driver's face. I panicked. Without even thinking, I hit the gas, swerving back onto the road. My tires squealed, the sound echoing in the quiet night. And of course, the SUV followed. I didn't want to lead them to my house, so I started making random turns, winding through neighborhoods I didn't know, taking sharp corners without signaling, trying to lose them. But no matter what I did, they stayed right behind me. For 20 minutes, I drove like that, my hands sweating against the wheel, my chest aching from how hard my heart was pounding. Then I saw something that felt like salvation, a sign for the county sheriff's office. I swerved into the lot, slamming my brakes and skidding to a stop right in front of the building. The SUV slowed, and for the first time, it didn't follow. It cruised by slowly, headlights blinding me, before disappearing into the darkness. I sat in that parking lot for 15 minutes, gripping the wheel, waiting for my breathing to return to normal. When I finally pulled back onto the road, I drove straight home without stopping once. To this day, I have no idea who was behind the wheel or what they wanted, but I know one thing. If that police station hadn't been there, I don't think I would have made it home. It was late July, one of those humid summer nights where the heat lingers long after the sun goes down. I had just left a friend's cookout about an hour outside of St. Louis, and the drive home was mostly interstate, long stretches of empty highway broken up only by the occasional overpass. It was about 1:30 in the morning when I noticed something strange. Up ahead, standing on one of those overpasses, was a figure, a woman. At first, I thought maybe she was a jogger, or someone who had gotten stuck walking home, but as I got closer, I realized how out of place she looked. She was just standing there, perfectly still, leaning slightly over the railing, as if watching the cars below. Her clothes didn't make sense either. She wore a long flowing dress, almost like something out of the 1950s. The fabric fluttered in the breeze, and her hair, dark and tangled, spilled down over her shoulders. As I drove beneath her, I glanced up. She was staring directly at me. Her face was pale, almost gray in the glow of the overpass lights, and her eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my chest tighten. The moment lasted only a second, but it was enough to make me shiver. I shook it off, telling myself it was just someone passing through. Maybe she was waiting for a ride. Maybe she lived nearby. But 10 minutes later, I saw her again. Another overpass. Same woman, same dress, same stillness. She was leaning forward this time, her hands gripping the railing as if she were about to climb over. And again, her eyes followed me as I passed. I felt my throat go dry. There was no way she could have gotten ahead of me that quickly. Not on foot, not dressed like that. I turned up the radio, tried to distract myself, but I couldn't shake the feeling of her eyes on me. Then, 20 minutes later, I saw her a third time. This overpass had no lighting, just the faint glow of my headlights as they swept across the concrete. But there she was, clearer than ever. This time, she wasn't just standing still. She was leaning so far over the railing that I thought she might fall. Her arms hung downward, her hair dangling like a curtain, and even from below I could see her face, upside down, smiling. That was it for me. My heart slammed against my ribs as I pressed the gas harder. I didn't want to look, but some instinct made me check my rearview mirror. She was gone. The overpass behind me was empty. I didn't see her again for the rest of the drive. By the time I got home, I convinced myself it had to have been a trick of the light, or maybe I was just overtired. But here's the part that keeps me awake at night. A few weeks later, I mentioned it to a coworker who grew up in that area. Her face went pale when I described the woman. She told me there was a story locals used to whisper about, a woman who had thrown herself from an overpass back in the 1960s, wearing a white summer dress. People say she appears on the bridges along that highway, watching drivers, sometimes even luring them into accidents. And every time I drive that stretch of interstate now, I can't help but wonder, did I see her ghost that night? Or was it something else, waiting for me to stop? Back when I was in college, I'd often go on late night drives just to clear my head. I know it sounds strange, but something about empty roads and the hum of the engine helped me think. It was the middle of August, humid, the air thick and sticky even at 2 in the morning. That night I didn't want to go home yet, so I decided to go a little farther than usual, past the edge of the suburbs, into the back roads where the streetlights vanish and the trees lean over the pavement like a tunnel. At first, it was peaceful. The crickets were loud, the headlights cut through the dark, and the road ahead was nothing but curves and shadows. But after a while, I realized I'd gone farther than I thought. My GPS kept buffering, spinning like it couldn't find a signal, and my phone service had dropped out completely. That's when I saw it. A wooden sign nailed to a post, leaning slightly to one side. The paint was faded, but I could just make out the word highway, with an arrow pointing down a dirt road. I felt a wave of relief. Finally, a way back. So I turned. The second I did, something felt wrong. The air grew heavier, the trees pressed in closer, and my headlights seemed weaker, swallowed by the thick dark. The road was uneven, the dirt loose under my tires. I told myself it was fine. This was just a back road. But a few minutes in, I saw something that made my stomach drop. On the side of the road, just past a cluster of trees, was an old car, rusted, decayed. Vines curled through the wheel wells, and its doors were hanging wide open like broken arms. At first, I thought it was just abandoned years ago, but then I noticed the marks, long deep scratches carved into the metal. Not dents, not rust streaks, scratches, as if something had clawed at the doors from the outside. I drove past quickly, my chest tightening. 10 minutes later I saw it again. Same rusted car, same doors open, same claw marks. I gripped the wheel tighter. No, I muttered out loud. That's impossible. Maybe I'd looped somehow? Maybe there was another car just like it? But deep down, I knew it was the same one. I pressed harder on the gas. Trees blurred by. My heart was racing. 5 minutes later, there it was again. The same car, same angle, same marks. That's when the panic set in. I wasn't just lost, I was trapped. Somehow the road was looping, pulling me in circles. I decided to test it. The next time I saw the car, I pulled over. I put the car in park, turned off the engine, and just listened. The forest was silent. No crickets, no wind, no animals, just heavy, suffocating silence. I stared at that abandoned vehicle, and I swear I saw something move inside. Just the faintest shift of a shadow. That was enough for me. I turned the key, floored it in reverse, and didn't stop until I backed all the way to the paved road where I'd first turned off. When I finally reached the main road again, I pulled over, shaking so hard I could barely hold the wheel. I turned around to look at the dirt road behind me, and it was gone. Not blocked, not hidden, just gone, like it had never been there at all. To this day, I don't know what would have happened if I'd kept driving, but I do know one thing. I'll never ignore that gut feeling again.